Hi, this is Yamiel with Divorce in Florida Online. And in this video, I wanted to talk to you about what is the divorce with children in mutual agreement and custody word. Particularly, I want to address the word custody. That word is actually has not really been used in the state of Florida for quite some time because it is assumed that both parents are responsible for the child. And how it works technically is, for the most part, most decisions are made either when the child is with the parent, with either parent. So, if the child is with you every other weekend, then the basic decisions you're going to make. And when the child is with you, even if it's every week, anytime the child is in your house, you make most decisions. Of course, the exception will come when there's like a major medical situation. Then, of course, at that point, both parents are supposed to work together for the well-being of the child. However, for most decisions, you both will make the decision. So, for example, if there's an education decision to be made, usually the parent that has the child should be making most of the basic decisions. Now, if there's a major decision, such as putting the child into a different school or online school or even homeschool, then both parents should be making those decisions jointly and make sure that that the child is getting the best education possible. We also get a lot of questions about traveling. And so one of the things about this most typical scenario is that the person taking the child outside of the state or outside of the country will provide on writing the itinerary, flight information, phone numbers, addresses of where the child is going to be located at. So, for example, if you're a parent and you're co-parenting and you have, let's say, a month, June, for example, just to give an example, and you want to travel outside of the country with the child, in most cases you can, but you do have to provide in writing to the other parent where the child is going to be, how long it's going to be, as long as it is within your time period. So if that's when you're supposed to have your child, you can technically have that child with you. And and again, that should all be specified on the parenting plan, which is a document that has to be drafted either before the divorce is filed, if it's a mutual agreement, or after, if the divorce is filed, with a summons and a sheriff and all those things. So the parenting plan, having a parenting plan that has those things specified is very important, because right now you may not care about that, but later on, as the years progress, you may care about that. And if it's not stipulated in there and you guys are not in agreement, the case will need to be reopened and then dealt with. And that's not fun for nobody. It costs money. You have to pay to reopen the case. Most of the times you may have to hire an attorney. And so it's better to have a parenting plan from the get-go that has all those details already kind of hashed out, even if the child is an infant, because later on in the future, it may become extremely important to have those things in there. So I always suggest my clients that whenever they're preparing their divorce document, whenever they're giving me a client intake, or even if they do their own parenting plan themselves, that the parenting plan has as much detail as possible. Another thing that the parenting plan has, a lot to do with it is a lot of issues is that if the other parent, let's say the parent is supposed to have the child from every other Friday to Sunday, but if it doesn't say at what time, that can be a problem if the father or the mother, whoever has the child, shows up at 10 p.m. But there's nothing on the paperwork to say, okay, if you don't show up within 15 minutes, I have the right to just make plans, right? That happened to me As a matter of fact, I failed, when I first started doing this, I did my own divorce and I failed to put that on the paperwork. And my ex-husband kept showing up later and later, and he started to Sunday, and he kept showing up later and later and later. And one day he gets to the house, my house, at 5 p.m., expecting me to still be there with the kids waiting for him. Well, guess what? I took them out for dinner. They were all day waiting for him, and he never showed up, never called me. So I said, all right, let me just do what I need to do, keep these kids entertained and do something with them. And so when I come back to the house, he's there with the police, and he has the parenting plan with him and showing to the cop, and the cop is like, well, it doesn't say here what time you're supposed to be here. And so that was, of course, I prepared my own divorce. I made that mistake. And I mean, they couldn't do anything really, because yeah, it's his day, but it didn't have a time. So literally he could show up at whatever time, but it wouldn't make sense if he didn't even call me. And I showed the phone and said he never even called me. I had no idea if he was even coming. So you want to avoid those things, because in the moment that you're getting divorced, there may not be other people involved, but then later on there are stepmothers that kind of change the dynamic of the relationship between co-parents. And it's always better to have it on writing, so if something goes awry, you can say, okay, so this is what we agreed on, this is what we need to do, let's do this, to avoid any confusion. So I highly recommend that whenever you guys prepare a parenting plan, it has all those components in place. Okay, so thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, our website is divorcingfloridaonline.com. We don't provide legal advice. This is just based on what I've seen, what I've experienced, what my clients have experienced. As I have helped people prepare their divorce documents. All right, thank you so much. If you would like more advice on before divorcing, during divorcing, and after divorcing, subscribe to the channel, because there'll be a lot more content coming up with those details. Thank you and have a blessed day.